today I have something awesome to go over and show you guys. I recently upgraded some of the equipment in my studio, and one of the devices that I got was the Behringer Monopoly, which I have wanted one of since 1984 when they stopped selling them after hearing Depeche Mode for the first time, probably, I believe. And I thought, man, I want one of those synths. What are those synths? And it was the chord Monopoly. Well, Behringer re-released it, thankfully, so now you can actually get one at a reasonable price that's brand new, as opposed to buying a very old piece of equipment that is going to almost absolutely need maintenance, if not now, very soon. So let's take a look at it and see what you guys think. Let's go. All right, so here we are in my studio, right up close and personal with my Behringer Monopoly. Now, this thing is a beautiful, beautiful synth. It pretty much exceeded my expectations in almost every way. The real wood panels on the sides, the keys, the size of the keys is nice. It is a little smaller than the chord Monopoly, but I don't think you're going to notice it. And one thing I really liked about it is the fact that on the original chord Monopoly, as far as I know, everything was just flat like so, you know, just like it is. Well, on the Behringer, they actually give us this little tilt here, and there's a little lift up right back here, so I can put that in an angle. So when I'm sitting here in front of it, it lets me see the knobs a lot better than having to kind of get over the top of it and all that. These are just aesthetic type things so far, but I'm just saying that's a really kind of cool thing that they did there. The case is very similar to the Poly D, which was their polyphonic Model D that they released, and that synth was pretty sick. I have yet to get one of those, but I would like to get one of the Poly Ds. I really like the Model D, I can tell you that. It's one of my prized synthesizers. I really do enjoy using it. So just like the original synth, this unit has 4 VCOs, okay? And you've got 4 different shapes that you can choose from for them. We have your, right here, you have your, let me turn down, actually, no, turn down the levels here. And we are going to go one by one through them. Okay, there's your triangle wave. Okay, here's your saw. A little bright. Pulse wave modulation. And just regular pulse wave. Now this right now is set on unison. Now unison's kind of, it's a mono mode. There are 2 mono modes. There's unison right here, and there's chord memory. Chord memory is kind of cool, because what this lets you do is it lets you actually program a chord. If you go over to, well, let's do it right now. I'll do a quick one. If I go back, I'm going to turn the oscillators back on, and we'll put this on poly mode. Now it's going to sound a little thin. Okay. I'll turn the volume down just a smidge. It's a little. There we go. All right. So if I program this, you know, typical C block chord, I'm trying to change the oscillators a little here because they're being all over the place like that right now. It's kind of a little. There we go. Simple block chord, and now I hit chord memory. Every time I hit a single key, it plays that same formation chord. Which is kind of cool. And that's just that's what the chord memory does. I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't realize that was a thing. Never had seen that before. All right, there we go. We're back to just a basic triangle wave. Now, what happens is, we'll turn it to saw. When you start adding other sounds into this is when it gets kind of crazy sound. It sounds awesome, you know. Let's go over here, put it back onto unison, and we're gonna go. That's adding a second saw wave. Or I could add a second pulse wave or a pulse wave modulation. This is a triangle. Right here next to it, there's the octave. You've got 16, 8, 4, and 2. These are all feet. You can, by going to longer distance, it lowers the octave. So 16 is the lowest, 2 is the highest. All right, you got your level right here. You've got it built in this right here. This column is sort of your oscillator mixer. You can control what oscillators are in or out and how much. Over here on the right of that, we have our envelopes. Okay, for frequency, there's an envelope. You've got your it's your full frequency envelope with attack, decay, sustain, release. And for your amplification, you also have an attack, decay, sustain, release. Below that, we have our noise generator. Which you can add just a smidge of noise if you want, or you can go crazy and add a bunch of noise. This is kind of handy for making impact type sounds like drums and that type of thing. This synth is one of the synths that I would say it's hard to find a sound that you can't make with it. It does a lot. And it's one of the reasons I always wanted one. It's just like, it was just such a capable synthesizer that I felt like I really, really wanted one of these. I'm going to give you guys a different view so you can see the top, just so you can see a little better. And I'm going to drop this down so you can see inside. Well, see the knobs better. One thing I will caution you is when you're going up and down, depending where you're running this wire in the back, it's the power wire. Just be careful because it can end up under, and I don't know if that, eventually it could cut the wire. I don't know if it's sharp enough to cut it, but I wouldn't want to test that theory out. Just a side note for your, safety and benefit. I didn't mention, but this whole thing is made of metal. So this thing is tour worthy. I mean, you could, I feel like this thing could take a set of stairs. I wouldn't want to try that theory out, but if you had, if it fell down some stairs in say a case or whatever, or even on its own, as long as it fell down bottom, running down the stairs, I think you'd probably be all right. I don't know. That's not a promise or anything. I'm just telling you what I feel just based on the way it's constructed. It's nice and heavy, and it's beautiful, made of metal. Like I said, it's amazing. Let's look over here. We have, for each of the oscillators, we have tuning. So you can tune each oscillator. There's also a master tune up here. But you can tune them against them. Turn this noise down. You can tune them against each other to widen your sound. Go over here, we have our portamento and detune. Now this part right here is all part of the frequency modulation parts of the synth and the pulse wave modulation. All right, so if I go over and let's see, I'll put on a couple pulse wave modulation envelopes. Hear how that changes it? And then if I turn on the effects, that's when this really kicks in, this whole part right here. It's modulation effects, and you can control them right here. You have if it's on VCO, on modulation, you have if it's on sync, modulation, or S and X, single or double. The arpeggiator. I'm going to turn the effects off for a second. here's the arpeggiator. We have it 1 octave, 2 octaves, or full. Now this is not on right now. All right, I'm gonna turn it on. Now you'll notice one thing is that it doesn't seem to do anything right away. That's because up here, where we have these 2 frequency knobs, okay. Okay, this one activates the speed of the arpeggiator. I just realized that sounds like the song to Gravity Falls. Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, we also have right here. You can change your modulation waveform right here and have the speed controlled right up here. There it is. Right here in the middle, above transpose, that's actually the transpose, says the word transpose below it. This is you transpose the keyboard up. This is your lowest, and then highest is. A couple times when I flip these knobs and such, you sit there and you think that's not doing anything. That's because sometimes you have it set to affect the wrong thing. You might have it set to affect the oscillator, and you're trying to hear modulation, but it's not happening, and you're wondering what's going on. The internet is a wonderful place, and there are a lot of tutorials for making patches for this thing, especially considering since it's a resurrected old beast of a dragon of a synth. You can get a lot of tutorials out there, and I'm going to actually, as I go along and learn more about it myself, I will be doing more tutorials on it and creating songs with it and releasing them and letting you see what I do with it. But right now, this thing is just, I mean, it's just insane. I'm highly, highly impressed by the sound, the amazing sound capability of this unit and how authentic it is to the original. And not for nothing, but if you know who Kebu is, Kebu. If you don't know who he is, look him up. Kebu is like a synth god, okay? He's been compared to Jean-Michel Jarre. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right or wrong, and I apologize if Kebu catches this production and or Jean-Michel Jarre catches this video and hears me say the name completely wrong. I apologize. He's been compared to him, and he is an astounding musician who I've never seen anybody like him in real life, who plays up and around 16 synthesizers at a time. Not, physically plays them, but he'll program all the bits and play them off live synthesizers. There's nothing really, I'll say, recorded, in quotes here, per se, about his show. He uses no backing tracks. Everything is playing off of synths and local sequencers. And a lot of it he builds up right there. Like he'll be up there with his kick drum. He'll start the kick drum and be like, dump, 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 record his kick drum right there for the production. It's amazing. But Kebu is, I would consider to be an expert in synthesizers, and I think most people would, especially if you've seen him. And he did a video comparing this to the original Korg version, and he can't tell the difference. He says it basically sounds the same. There are slight differences, but there are slight differences in the actual Korg units from one to the other because components change. Their chemical, physical makeups. You can't 100% guarantee each capacitor is made identically, 100% identically, and going to react exactly the same. There are slight variations in components. So, it's that's what I'm saying. This is as close as we're going to get. Okay, so on the left here, we finish off this interface. We have the pitch bend wheel, which can be used for either you can have it set to pitch, which is in the middle here, and you have to actually adjust the intensity. Forgot to do that. You can do voltage control VCO1 with slave VCO or VCF, to control the frequency. So if we go, I really don't have anything being affected by that because it's quite a bit of pitch bend. All the way up, all the way down. Also, we have the modulation right here. Same thing, where I can go over here and turn this to adjust the maximum. Okay, there we go. And that's pretty much most of the interface here. Now, one other thing I want to mention, when you get one, or if you get one, on the front here, you're going to plug it in. You're going to go like this, and nothing's going to happen. And you're going to be like, lights are blinking, things are happening. Why is this not doing anything? If you're like me. Because manual will be damned. Do you know what I mean? Who's going to read the manual? Anyone out there going to actually read the manual right away when they get this? Or are you going to plug it in and see what happens first? And then get to the manual. That's what I did. That's what I do. I do read directions. I just don't usually get to them right away. I get too excited. All right. Well, when you get it, you're going to notice right over here, next to the volume, you'll be turning the volume all the way up and be like, nothing's coming out of this. That's because right next to the output of volume, the output right here, is this little switch. And it comes set to off. And what that is your volume out. If it's set to off, nothing happens. It's kind of like local off. Okay. That's local on. Now we're we turn this arpeggiator off. Now that's low. So it gives you a low impedance version. So if you're using a system with a high gain, you can do that and you'll be fine. If you want the high gain, just turn it up to high. As far as the keys themselves, they feel great. They're smooth. They're not quite a FITAR key bed, but they're pretty darn close. I would put them up against some of the more, some of the better controllers. I mean, I would say they do all right. I'd give them probably like an 8 out of 10. I've only felt the FITAR is just a little better, a little less like hammering type thing. I would imagine if you've used the DeepMind or if you've used the Poly D, you're going to be, and you like those keys, you're going to be pleasantly surprised because I believe these are the same keys as they're using over there. Let's take a look at the back for a second here. Okay. Now this is where it gets pretty cool. Actually, I'm just going to hold it up because I can't see it that well from over there, but you guys can see it. All right. So here we have our output. Okay, it's a monophonic output. There are the headphones jacks right there. You've got CV in and out right here. Okay, you've got triggers right here. You can change your trigger polarity. So right now it's set to ground, which I believe was the tip is ground and the sleeve is, the voltage, and the other way is tip is voltage and sleeve is the ground. You've got VCO right here, VCF, portamento, arpeggiator. Okay, these are your different inputs here, so you can control them from a sequencer. And then we even have one thing we didn't have on the original Monopoly was MIDI, and we have MIDI in, out, and through on this puppy. And even better than that, we have USB. USB wasn't even invented until in the 90s. So that's pretty cool that it's got USB on there, and it can be a single cable to control the whole thing. Also, when you get the software from Behringer, their Music Tribe software, making sure you're up to date on your patches and that type of thing is really easy through their software. It really makes owning this synthesizer kind of a joy, because you go on there and they're like, oh, there's an update. You click the update, and next thing you know, something that wasn't working quite right before, that you didn't really notice, but maybe you did notice. Some people, I don't notice a lot of the bugs people find because I'm not looking for them. I've never used one of the Monopolys before. I've seen them, I've heard them, but I don't know what should and shouldn't change on them. One of the other YouTubers I listened to did a video on the brightness, saying how the original was brighter. Well, there is an adjustment you can make on this synth to make it brighter. And he goes over that video, and I'll see if I can find the video. If I can find the video, I will put it down below in the comments so you can see if you do decide you want to mess with your synth. But one thing that I thought was really interesting on the synthesizer was this. Most analog synthesizers, in order to modify them, you need to open them up. Okay. What they have done here, this is going to get crazy because this wire is a little short. So I'm going to turn this off. And I'm just going to, in case, I'm going to flip this down. Now, if you look at the back here, you don't need to open this to adjust things. Most of the things that can be adjusted are right here with potentiometers, little screwdriver tip potentiometers you can adjust. There's offsets and scale for your VCOs. There's VCO 1, 2, and 3. That's all right here. You can tweak each of them individually. You can adjust the noise level. Actually, it doesn't look like it has a potentiometer in it. That one does not. It was one of these over here, either the FC adjust or a VCA adjust that he tweaked to increase the brightness to bring it up to the same level as the original Monopoly as far as the brightness of it. I'm not going to make that adjustment to mine. For a couple reasons. One, I figure the parameters that they set are there because they're supposed to be there. That the other synthesizer, the original synthesizer, just that it had that capability or that it was brighter, doesn't necessarily mean that that was a thing. It might have actually happened over time as components wore down. It could also be that people tweaked their synthesizers. There are people who say that they didn't and whatnot, and he actually mentions that there is a tweak you could do to do that, but that particular one he was testing against wasn't tweaked. Yeah, but at the same time, maybe something happened over the 40 years that synth had been being used, and something happened, something wore down, something wore up. I don't know what, what I mean? A hair fell in, or an ant jumped went in it and accidentally crossed two wires. I don't know what happened, but I'm just going to leave it like it is because it sounds good to me. And if it sounds good, it is good. You know what I mean? That's the general rule, in my opinion, on, with music and synthesizers and whatnot. You'll always have someone who has a different opinion than you, and you'll always have someone who doesn't like what you did. But if you like what you did, or if you like what's going on with something, and it's good to you, then it's good. You know what I mean? Just be happy. Be happy we have such a beautiful synthesizer revived, brought back from, synthesizer, the synthesizer graveyard, where, you can only buy a used, beat up Frankenstein version of the synthesizer until now. And now we have this brand new, amazing sounding synth. Also, I have a place in my heart for blue. It is my favorite color. So I was quite pleased that it's they've got, when I saw the synthesizer was blue originally, that was one of the things that attracted my eye to it. But then I heard it and found out that was the sound of the blue synthesizer from Korg, and I was like, God. Yeah, I couldn't buy it in 1984 because I was 14 and I had no income, and that's life. But I can buy one of these if you're looking for a really good synth with a lot of great tones from the past. Look no further than the Monopoly, man. This thing is beautiful. I'm just going to mess around with it a little bit so you guys can hear some of the sound capabilities of it, and you can tell me what you think later in the comments. If you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. It would really help me out. I'm trying to get this channel to grow. So here we go. The turns puppy on again. Oh, also one thing that they do mention in the manual is that despite the fact that it seems ready to play to me right now, they say to let it warm up for a few minutes. Probably to bring the oscillators up to temperature so that they don't warble as much and go out of tune, when you're playing it. I'm fine with whatever's going on here. I'm going to go into poly mode. Okay, you can play up to 4 notes in poly mode. I don't think I mentioned that. I meant to. But you got to have the oscillators turned on for it. So, because each note gets an oscillator. Unison share, this is kind of cool. What it does is you get all 4 oscillators, but if you press another key, 2 of those oscillators go to the second key, and then when you press a third, it becomes 3 oscillators until you press the 4th, and now all 4 oscillators play. One thing I didn't mention is that this unit is dry, meaning it has no effects at all. So you're probably going to want some kind of pedal for it. What I usually do with this particular setup is my mixer has a built-in effects unit, where I will go ahead and set something up as a virtual chain on my DAW and run the input to that. There we go. So when you do use poly, if you want it all to sound the same, you've got to go through and make sure all the oscillators are the same and that the tuning is the same, or as close to it as you want it to be. A little different is all right to give it a little thickness. If you want some variation, a good way to get that is to take oscillator 1 and 2 and match 1 and 3 and match them, and 2 and 4 match them.